Okay, I did not expect this video. This is a video I made off the cuff, just like I'm kind of concerned about this one issue the Pyro Archon may have. The overwhelming amount of people that interacted with this video and, cared about it a lot seems to, warrant some more discussion than what I gave it previously. So I'm going to go from top comments to, bottom. We'll see. I'm going to we'll see how long this video takes. I don't want it to be super long, but we'll see. Gotta love Hoyo for making a problem that isn't there and demanding you to fix it by spending even more money. I don't really think this is the case. Sure, it seems like that, definitely. If this becomes a common thing, I feel like it can definitely be an issue. But at the same time, it is really lore accurate to what we're doing in Natlan right now. Like, if you follow the story, so I'm not necessarily sure that the Pyro Archon is specifically like this, especially because she's the Archon. Generally, this is when they just open up the brakes and are just like, whatever. I do also think that possibly another reason why it's like this is because she's a human. Guys, remember Fiorina, how when she initially came out, when I didn't really like her, she seemed a little restrictive. It wasn't really that great. Got used to it over the, course of when she came out. It very much so was like, oh, I don't like this. And a lot of people, the reason they gave me is, hey, it's because she's a human. Sorry if you haven't finished the Fontaine story, but, a little bit of spoilers there. But yeah, seriously, Pyro Archon, she possibly has that same treatment sort of as Fiorina, I'm going to be honest. The second comment will be, as someone who still has every Natlan character C0R1, this still makes me mad. I'm not going to say that bad word. Bad word gets me demonetized on YouTube, alright, buddy? But hey, the best part of Genshin is being able to make different teams. Yeah, I mean, depending on the kind of player that you are, sure. But personally for me, this never really, this is not my, best part. It is definitely subjective that this is, the best part of Genshin, at least to me. Personally, I run the best team that I can. I run my most comfortable team. I love destroying the content. I love, making... I do, enjoy, oh, I'm fighting this boss, I should change up my team this way. Right, I do like that. However, it's never really a thing. If I could go through the game with one team only, I would do it. I'm going to be honest. I would absolutely do it. That's just my kind of play style, right? So, it's definitely a subjective thing. People say it's the best part. Personally, I just like destroying hilly trolls and stuff, but hey, whatever. With the elemental reaction system, my Raiden, Nihida, Fiorina, Venti have been on many different teams. I'm surprised you got Venti on a different team. I'm surprised he got on a team. I'm going to be honest. It's insane how restrictive characters completely negate that. Yeah, two people who really like that sort of gameplay, I don't think the Pyro Archon's going to be for you. But I think, as I say here, I'm assuming right now, personally, I have no evidence for this. Well, I kind of have some evidence for this. Shilonen will be enough to regenerate full Night Soul stacks, so you only need Shilonen if you want the Night Soul stacks. And let's go actually look at my sort of evidence, I guess you could call it. Okay, so here we are. It's important to sort of look at what the Pyro Archon's, range is at. I've looked into this clip ever since I sort of did that, and it's important to note that Mulaney starts here at 60 Night Soul points. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to play the clip here, and you can sort of see she's at 60%, I would say, and she goes up, going up, and then you run out maximum there. She still isn't there. So I would say there's a good chance it's 200. This is just me predicting, but I would say it's a good chance it's 200 because we were at 60% and we're still not at maximum here. 60 Night Soul points would give you 30 stacks or something. I guess it could be 0.5 spirit per stack, per Night Soul point. That'd be a little weird. But saying it's a 1-to-1 correlation, I'm assuming the Pyro Archon has 200 here. So that's what I'm basing my theory off of. And, I don't know how much she's going to have. They didn't actually reveal how much Night Soul Pyro Archon's going to have. But I do think this is where the second part of this, what this clip is showing, is that this normal attacks here will go up. I'm assuming that once you have, start hitting with normal attacks and charge attacks, I'm pretty sure it goes up with charge attacks too. this will start building up more during rotation, as this like clip that they're showing here, it's not really like he's not attacking fast. The Traveler doesn't have fast attacking animations. Like he didn't even do like a full rotation if you really go for it, right? So I think personally, I would say Shieldon probably is looking to be enough at least to recover maybe like 90% of it, which should be fine, because I believe you can fire it off early. You can like see, and so this is what's making me think that you could fire it off prematurely, possibly, depending on the amount of fighting spirit accumulated. Now maybe she has like her energy bar and it's different from the fighting spirit. I doubt that, but it could just be like Raiden. I don't know because I believe, no, the energy bar should be directly connected to fighting spirit, because that shows how much fighting spirit you have, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, this should be able to be launched prematurely, possibly. I don't know how prematurely. 30%. It's whatever Genshin decides. I imagine it's not 0, but I imagine there is some variation, because, depending on the amount of fighting spirit accumulated, the damage of her elemental burst will go up, and basically is what they're saying. Very interesting. So that's my thoughts, just real quick there. So I believe that personally, Shieldon should do enough to possibly just regain all of that you need, right? And then here we have basically a reaction. I'll just leave these in. I'll just say for another Furiana rerun at this point. I mean, if that's your reaction to this information, if you don't have Natlan characters, you don't have interest in Natlan characters, because, hey, maybe you literally just haven't liked any of the Natlan characters. That is possible. It's a valid point to say, well, I don't like the other Natlan characters. Why would I want to get them for this character, right? Like as a meta player, I can say easily like, oh, hey, go for like Nahida for your Alhaitham, but then someone will turn around and say, I hate Nahida. And I'm like, okay. I can't, like, there's no argument against that, I'm going to be honest. Like, I could try and convince them, like, hey, just bite the bullet, get Nahida, and then you're, like, the character that you really like is going to be great. Like, I can try and convince them, but there's not really much I can do when someone literally just doesn't like the character, right? I have seen some people say, oh, well, you can just use Kazuha and Shangling and they'll just have their bursts, give, like a whole bunch of stacks for, Mavuika. That's not actually how it works. It's normal charge and plunging attacks, I think. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm assuming it's not just normal attacks. Typically, it's normal charge and plunging attacks whenever they're talking about that stuff. But that is what gets you stacks of fighting spirit, not, any burst damage, elemental skill damage. None of that will give you fighting spirit. You also have to make sure that, certain characters, I mean, Chloride will work. I'm trying to think of maybe like Ayato. Does Ayato do elemental skill damage? No, he does normal attack damage. His weapon is based on normal attack damage. I'm blanking, guys. Yeah, I'm gonna be real. I've got no idea. I'm actually completely blank. I can't think of an elemental skill attacker or something, but like Raiden will not stack this, by the way. Like, she won't stack the burst, which is kind of crazy. Not really that insane, though. Like, once again, you're probably going to end up running, well, actually, would you run? No, I don't know. It's interesting, because it would be Kazuha versus Raiden, right? I'd assume that Raiden, especially with Pyro Archon on the team, Shieldon will be better, right? Did I say Kazuha versus Raiden? Kazuha versus Shieldon for Raiden, right? But yeah, what this guy is saying is, like, in all fairness, she is another off-field damage dealer, which doesn't actually seem like based on her fighting spirit, so it should be fine. Although the fighting spirit does give her more damage when she pops her burst, which I imagine is something that you're going to want to do when you have it up, right? You want to be able to pop it as strong as possible. So I still think that she's probably going to be a good off-field character for basically every single Natlan DPS, and definitely a couple, older DPSs that, use Shangling and don't really, Shangling. It's like 400% energy charge, guys. Come on, stop using her. Just stop. Why? Why are you doing that to yourself? She has like 400% energy charge, and you still don't get her burst up. Is this like a kink? But yeah, getting a Shangling replacement for most likely all of the teams that exist for Natlan characters. Yeah, that's basically what she's going to fulfill. And then I will have to see for older characters. We don't know. She's probably not designed for older characters in mind that much. They probably didn't look at, like, oh, well, does she work for Risley? Well, no, actually, we should make her Pyro application like 7 times more, guys. I don't know. Whatever she would need to make use with Risley. Oh, this is bad. Oh, and Pyro Traveler is decent for Pyro Archon, which is great news. Chat, I have bad news. This is Pyro off-field triggered by the Traveler, I'm pretty sure. I am pretty confident that is why they're using Mulani here, because he's applying Pyro off-field and vaporizing, or like helping her vaporize. So Mulani will also be a character that will help by the Pyro Traveler. We'll see how much. Pyro Archon does also buff, I think, depending on her fighting spirit. So it is tough. It is tough. I think definitely for, you know, Mulani and like Knitch and Chaska, I think definitely is looking to be good. But this certainly is interesting. It's interesting. We'll see how good the Pyro Archon, or not Pyro Archon, Pyro Traveler is. But he's applying Pyro off-field. And the Pyro Archon, considering they're releasing a cryo character that it basically seems like she's directly designed to be used with the Pyro Archon in the same patch, like, it's very clear to me. Like, I'm looking at it like, oh yeah, that probably, you know, that's probably what we need to do, right? Like, so yeah, it seems like the Pyro Archon is going to be a reactionary DPS. Otherwise, I don't think that they would release the cryo character to specifically buff her. I'm assuming it's specifically buff her, because Shilonen is definitely going to work with Pyro Archon, and it would be weird to have a cryo character that is buffing Pyro characters that doesn't actually buff the Pyro Archon that came out within the same update as the Pyro Archon. Basically, Silali's probably buffing the Pyro Archon. This is probably going to mess up with the melt reactions. It's not actually as good as you would think. Free to play, guys, though. I do say, like, hey, maybe this would work because you wouldn't have Silali. I don't know. You'll have to take that up with accounting. Okay, so here we have some propaganda. Not really. This is just some guy who, you know, talking about, hey, after Natlan, what are we looking like for the Pyro Archon? Because for Natlan, we basically are going to get the Natlan characters, and then it's going to be a long time before we actually do get Natlan characters, if we're being honest. Like we have to seriously look and see, like, oh, are they going to really drop just a Natlan character to make the Pyro Archon, you know, still relevant? And to that, I say, possibly. Sorry for the flashbang. This site, I don't think, has dark mode. But we can see right here very clearly, Raiden comes out, and so does Chevy. It's very obvious that, you know, Chevy is right here, chat. So Chevy's right here. Coincidentally, 4.3. What happened? How long does it take for her to get a rerun? Coincidentally, guys, chat. How long does it take for Chevy to get a rerun? Oh, until Raiden gets a rerun? Now, one objection I have already to this, possibly, it's just a theory. Raiden is a character who is absolutely like the #1 in the game in terms of popularity. I don't think there's ever been a more popular character than Raiden. Maybe Hu Tao. I still think Raiden's better, or like more popular, right? So it would make sense that, you know, coincidentally, she would receive a mysterious 4-star that takes her off of Hyper Bloom as her best team. But yeah, seriously though, Chevy came out for Raiden, and that is another thing that we can talk about. So that's another point here. Like, it's like, so it will be impossible for Hoyo to always just release a support character from Natlan. I'm assuming he's talking after Natlan's released. All of its, you know, 5.0 series updates has been gone. They're just going to release a random support. And to that, I say maybe. Considering they outright did it for the Raiden, not the Pyro Archon. Considering they did it for the Raiden. I almost said the Raiden, but I did say the Raiden. The Raiden, all right? They did it for the Raiden. Maybe. It's not impossible, I'm going to be honest. They clearly were like, oh, this character needs a support? Oh, she's like one of the most popular characters of the game, and she's an off-field character now, and people don't like that? Oh, well, let's just, you know, go ahead and support. There you go. We don't have a Pyro crit damage character, by the way. Could be a Natlan character. Who knows? Maybe we get, like, a mono Pyro. Like, nah, that would suck for... That would make Lenny way too good. Hold on. My brain. I don't know. Okay, and then they go on to sort of compare Arlecchino, who is coming in the next phase of the update. So logically, that Mavuika will have limited supports, unlike the father, Arlecchino, who will always be functioning and will keep burning whenever there is a new support, whether they are from Natlan or not. Yeah. Arlecchino, like, I've never seen a stronger argument for possibly, like, oh, this character has more teams. Because factually, you know, Pyro Archon does not have as many teams. But then again, I want to, you know, reiterate, I only think that she needs Shilonen, and then the rest of her teammates are replaceable, if I'm being honest. Like, I don't think that she's going to need a lot. I don't. I don't think that they're going to make it to where you need 4 Natlan, because 1, we don't have enough supports for that. We have 2 Natlan supports at best right now. unless they force you to use Kachina, which would suck. And then they're gonna make you use Auroron on a melt like Shieldon weird combo. No, they're not gonna do that. They're definitely, leveling it out. All right, chat. Don't worry. So we'll see. They're just talking about, like, she's gonna age out, basically. This is what they're saying. She's gonna age out. Pyro Arlecchino here, when she gets a better support and the Pyro Archon doesn't, we'll see. We'll have to see. I mean, we can. And then, yeah, here we go again with the Pyro Traveler. People do think that the Pyro Traveler is really going to save. I don't think so. I'm pretty sure he's applying Pyro off field in that gameplay clip. I don't know that effect from any other character. I'm pretty confident. So here's another comment. I'm going for Silali, but I think we need to wait to get some hands-on experience with Pyro Archon before we jump to conclusions. Absolutely. I think when we see this character in game, if I can use Kachina and nearly max out her points, I don't think that is bad at all. Like, there's a difference between, oh no, we need Shieldon in order to max out the points before, or like, oh no, Shieldon's a better character on the team. Oh no, like that. You could say that for literally half the game. Like, that's different. That's different. Whereas, oh, we need Shieldon, or, oh, she's a better character in the slot, basically. We'll see. We'll see. Because you can easily just have Kachina and Shieldon as a sort of interchangeable, like, free-to-play versus pay-to-play option, right? We'll see what it looks like. I'm more interested in the other characters in the patch, and if I have some pulls left, I'll try and grab her. So, yeah. Yeah, so I made a mistake. So, a lot of people thought when I was talking about, like, oh, she only had Jean and Charlotte, or not Jean and Charlotte, but she only had Sinyun and Charlotte. I didn't realize I was trying to talk about characters that came out after Fiorina to buff her and make her easier to use on other teams. And Sinyun is the only character that actually did that, because I thought Charlotte came out on Fiorina's rerun banner. So I'm just correcting that now. I thought Charlotte came out on Fiorina's rerun banner, not her initial banner. So, yeah, that's all we got. Like that, Sinyun was the only character that we got. It didn't really affect much. I just sort of got over that. A lot of people misunderstood that as me saying, oh, she only worked well with Sinyun and Charlotte. But no, that's not the case. Don't worry, I'm not that dumb. I'm dumb, but not that dumb. I'm not that dumb. Also, by the way, I have been responding to comments basically for 2 hours straight, 3 hours straight. It's 3 hours. It's been tough. It's been tough. It seems like the perfect storm of factors to skip Mavuika. Like, she is being released alongside a really hype, powerful character, Silali, who is Cryo. Honestly, gonna be honest, this one, I don't know about that one. Like, that honestly got me thinking that it was a joke comment at first, because I really, like, unless you're like a Silali fan, they haven't hyped her up, right? They're definitely hyping up the Pyro Archon a lot more. This got me thinking that it was going to be a joke at the beginning, but I don't think it actually is. And thus, who even knows when she'll be rerun, and a Harbinger who is also Pyro DPS and can pop off on her own without standard supports. Meanwhile, Mavuika will get Archon rerun timers. Yeah, but at the same time, you wouldn't really want to summon for Arlecchino if you plan to summon for Pyro Archon later, because honestly, I just don't think it's worth it. If I think you're better off investing, like, more into one. Like, let's say you get, Arlecchino C1 over the Pyro Archon, right? Because I really don't see a world where, like, people, like, one thing is, if you don't have any Natlan characters because you were summoning for non-Natlan characters during the 5.0 series updates, right, so far, I understand that completely. I feel like a lot of people misunderstood when I was saying, like, oh, well, they didn't summon for the Natlan characters. They skipped them for the Pyro Archon. They automatically went to, oh, they didn't summon at all. But there are still people who summon for, like, Nevi and Nahida, 2 great meta characters in their own right. They do their own stuff, and, oh, oops, you didn't summon for the Natlan characters. Sorry, Pyro Archon's bad for you. Hopefully, I think we'll get to it, the Kachina cooldown thing. But yeah, you could just run Arlecchino with standard supports and not even have to worry about, oh, I accidentally didn't bring this support. I didn't bring this support, the Pyro Archon definitely is built mainly towards people who do like the Natlan characters. And I think it really just boils down to the lore accuracy. Because, listen, Genshin, they love lore. I'm going to be honest. They love their story. They don't let you skip World Quest. They make the World Quest so long. And the devs love to just throw out, oh, look how many words we have in our World Quest now. Like, they very clearly put the story of Genshin Impact very high on their, like, accuracy list for characters, right? So when the Pyro Archon comes out, she needs Natlan characters. That's most likely because they think that's good lore-wise. I've already talked about this a little bit, but I do think that's something I need to reiterate a lot. because I feel like a lot of people are immediately thinking this is a cash grab. I'm not so sure that this was initially. I think maybe, obviously, the people who, maybe overseeing Pyro Archon's design possibly looked at that and was like, oh, we could do that. We can make that like, we can sell more characters with one. But no, we'll see. But I imagine we only need the one Natlan character, like I said. Almost enough to make me think they're trying to throw Mavuika under the bus. Yeah, she does have a lot of flaws, but I also think that it's possibly a fear of power creeping Arlecchino. Like, maybe they are actually scared to make a character that's just better than Arlecchino, because Arlecchino, by the way, is only like 8 months old. She's only 8 months old. Nevi's 14 months old. He's had a full good year, right? Sure, he can get power crept. I don't really care. But even still then, they tried to do that, or they didn't try, but they, had Mulani do that sort of with her, speed running abilities. And people still are like, oh yeah, he's still going to be like, number one, because, Mulani inconsistency, clunkiness, doesn't really make for the best of, like highest ranking characters, right? She's a safe skip, but for most people, I'd say she will have the most account value. At least I'm assuming she will be decent main or sub DPS without Natlan supports and pop off when you eventually get them. So, yeah, so this guy's saying, or girl, I don't know, but this person's saying, oh, well, she'll be at least a decent sub DPS, If you have teams where you're using Shangling right now, there's a good chance the Pyro Archon is a good replacement on that team, and then you don't have to worry about those 400% energy return. Hey, listen, she doesn't own you. You can run. You don't have to put her in the team. There's a good chance she can replace Shangling in a lot of teams just because she's easier to use, and half the time that's going to be way better. You're probably not going to have to balance a whole bunch of stats on her either. You're probably just looking like, main attack percent, goblet pyro, crit rate, and then like whatever unga bunga you want to do. All right, I don't think it matters, honestly. She's going to be really easy to build, I imagine. They haven't like given any like, well, she does maybe want, but she's not going to want energy recharge. That's the important thing. She literally will not want energy recharge. She doesn't have any use for it. It would be interesting if they made energy recharge affect the amount of fighting spirit she gained. That would have been a cool gimmick if they did that. Oh, yeah. And that's assuming Kachina and Pyro Traveler aren't sufficient. Again, people are mentioning Pyro Traveler. I think he's just going to mess up reactions. Obviously, I mean, I imagine if you're not using Sealali, you're probably using Furina for reactions. I would imagine. Who knows? We'll have to see in game, but I imagine that's how it's going to go. So in my opinion, worst case, you get her and she's merely a flexible and decent pyro DPS. I mean, yeah, Kachina probably will at least make her be able to be a pyro DPS. I'm assuming, because I don't think you'll have to fill up that whole bar, but we'll see. So she's also just as much as a safe pick as a safe skip. I wouldn't say safe pick, because it's just, you still do have that Natlan requirement where it's like, oh, well, oh no, I'm actually like using my Kachina for another team. What happens then? What happens then? You've lost her entire kit. I'll make my choice when I can run her trial a few times, but that's mostly because I also just really like Arlecchino. Yeah, I mean, I really like Arlecchino too. Yeah. And then, yeah, this, depending on how many stacks you get, does increase her damage. So Kachina, having her on the team instead of the 90 cost, Shieldin, there's a good chance you're missing a lot of stacks, which is going to maybe prevent you from having a lot of damage, right? So basically, what this guy is saying is, like, you need one of the Natlan 5 stars, and then, Pyro Archons of no interest. Otherwise, then you just get Arlecchino, right? So if you don't have Natlan 5-star supports, basically don't summon for Pyro Archon, which, you can make that argument. I do think that's basically what I'm going to end up making when I make my Should You Summon video, just because it's like, if you don't have the Natlan supports, is she really worth it? I'm going to be honest, I might even delay my Should You Summon video. Like, I normally don't normally I could sort of get the gist of a character, but I really want to see how Kachina and, like, just she's performing with her weapon. With Sealali, I'll be able to say, no, don't summon. Like, you have, with Sealali, I don't know. It's going to be hard to even say, like, should you summon on either one of them. Sealali seems like she's going to be pretty good, but I just don't know, right? New 5-star characters on the same banner. I'm going to say this probably a couple more times throughout this video. I think the reason why they're on the same banner is because I think Sealali is specifically designed for the Pyro Archon, and they don't want to release the Pyro Archon without, like, her best support or something. Like, the character that they specifically designed. Because Shieldin, she's kind of an all-around character. She doesn't really react with anything to make anybody else better. Whereas Lolly, clearly, it seems like they want her to react with the Pyro Archon, give her some melts, and, you know, do some damage, right? And you decrease the Pyro Res in the process, and then you can run Cinder City in the process, right? That certainly is a possibility. So, personally, I think that it's just because they want to... They're either testing out how well Dual Banner works, or they just want to make sure that the Pyro Archon looks as good as she can. And it also might be to limit out, you know, like, oh, people who didn't summon on Shieldin', right? Because they don't like, you know, whatever, the cool people who do cool things like music and stuff and roller skating. And like, bro, like, why? But like, let's just say you skip Shieldin', right? Just for the sake of argument. Let's say you're a paying player who skips Shieldin', you get Pyro Archon, and then you're like, man, I feel like she's not that good or that much better. And then you see a YouTube video with like, wow, Pyro Archon with Lolly is like the best character in the game. And then you're like, oh, I should summon on that. And then she's right there, right? So it is a marketing tactic. Do I think that is bad? Not necessarily, because like you have to it's not like you're gonna get groundbreaking amounts of summons throughout the second half of the update. Generally, the first half of the update is where you're gonna get most of the primos, especially in this update, because we're getting 20 summons within the first half, right? I get that maybe, oh, we would have like an extra 10 summons with Lolly on the second half, assuming that, right? You would have an extra 10 summons. Maybe you could get it, right? That is an argument you can have, but, you know, at the same time, I don't think I think people are kind of being a little more annoyed about this than they should be. Do I think that is good? No, because it honestly probably dwindles the hype for the update overall, because we're going to start off really high with Lolly and Pyro Archon, and then we're going to go down to, because these are like older characters that have already come out. Sure, it's their first rerun, but like older characters that have already come out, right? So this is a comparison I've seen a lot of people say. People saying this isn't an issue. Imagine Raiden's chakra stacks can only charge when you use Electro characters from Inazuma. You know, I think, you know, Electro characters is a little too much, but just Inazuma characters basically is what you should look at. And that's basically what this looks like to be. I'm going to be honest. Like, that's basically what this is. Only Inazuma characters. Now, how many Inazuma characters do you guys use with your Raiden? Imagine if you couldn't use Shieldin' with Raiden because it didn't give you any stacks. That, you know, hey. And I mean, Raiden stacks matter a lot, right? But I imagine it's not going to be as much. I can already tell you, it's probably not as much as Raiden, because Raiden needs basically all three characters to have high energy. I'm going to be honest. You probably are able to get away with just having the one character, like I've been saying. So this basic person is basically sort of talking about Archons in general. Mavuika is not an investment character like other Archons, right? She's a complement character once you have already invested in other Natlan characters, which I think is very true. I think if you have other Natlan characters, then you get the Pyro Archon. I don't think it goes the other way around, as you get the Pyro Archon, then you get the other Natlan characters, because I feel like that, like, it's hard to say with not having her in my hands, being able to see with Kachina, right? If she still does really, really good damage with Kachina, I'm going to be honest, I don't care. You can summon for her. Then I'll say, oh, you just wait for the supports. If you really like the character and you like her gameplay so far, wait for the supports. I wonder how they're going to do her trial, chat. Oh, no. They have to put Kachina in her trial, right? They're going to have to. But seriously, better put Kachina in the trial. Otherwise, that's going to look bad. But basically, yeah. I would not say it goes the other way around. We'll see, though. She may really just be that strong to where she blows me away, or at least impresses me enough to be like, oh, so like when I do get like the better characters, we're looking good, right? Yeah, basically that. And Hoyo expected us to just run with the fact that she's a Pyro Archon as her sole banner quality. Why should you invest in other Natlan characters you don't have to make this one usable? That is, yeah, like that's a genuine question. Like, why? Like, usable is a very possible term. I don't even think that's a impossible thing to where we see like, oh, is she usable with Kachina? We'll see, right? We'll have to see. But it's a very big possibility, right? Oh, that's just for lore reasons. You just spin on characters, make her more usable. Yeah, just sort of being coy, like, oh yeah, you know, just common sense. You know, spend money, make character more usable, right? Personally, we'll see. I think, like I said, I've been saying this the entire time. I think one character is probably going to be good enough, judging from the Mulaney, you know, way that we did it. I think as long as you have either Lolly or Shieldin', I think you're going to be fine. So hopefully, you know, people who really do like Pyro Archon do get one of those two, right? Maybe if you know you're going to get Shilonen on her rerun, maybe you do get the Pyro Archon this time. Because one thing that I haven't mentioned yet is, like, if we wait, or if we get the Pyro Archon and she's not really that great without those 5-star supports, it's going to get to the point where it's like, well, why, wait, hold on, why, you know, like, why am I just, like, sort of carrying you across, like, 3 updates, like 120 days, like a third of the year, just so you can be good later on in my account? Like, it's like, why do that when you could have also just summoned on Arlecchino in the same patch? Like, that is sort of where I'm coming from here. Like, it's like Arlecchino is right there, and she is a confidently good choice. Like, you can't go wrong with summoning on Arlecchino because she is just that good. Everyone should be up in arms. They are literally paywalling their own Archon. I don't agree with that. I'm probably not going to read the rest of this comment just because it's kind of, it's a lot of what we've already gone through. Basically, this is opinion. I don't agree with that. I think Kachina is definitely going to be at least good enough to make it to where you're not having to go through 2 full rotations of just the Pyro Archon. I'm assuming this guy's just talking about, like, the normal attack, you know, method of getting her burst up, right? I imagine you're not going to have to go through that, right? I imagine. Honestly, my worry is that she has no future potential when Natlan ends. She has no room to grow since there won't be any new additions. There will be. It's something a lot of people are saying. They can easily drop another Natlan character at least. Like, when they see that the Pyro Archon is actually, like, kind of fumbling, they, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if they went back to her, right? Because another thing is, this is our second Pyro Archon who's a DPS, by the way. Yeah, yeah, that's not a false statement. Honestly, you could say this is our first Pyro Archon that's a DP, or technically first Pyro Archon. Yeah, I'm not wrong with that, but our first Archon that's a DPS, because a lot of people would consider Raiden a driver because she was mainly there to sit there, you know, gain energy for other characters, have the other characters do the damage. Very nice, very cash money, you know, especially at C0. At C2, she became an incredible DPS. Yeah, she listen, this Pyro Archon's not going to be that way. I'm going to be honest. There's no way that she's like that, because there is no way that they made her be able to melt with Citlali. Also, with the Pyro Res decrease, like, she's the DPS. Like, she's going to be doing like 50 million damage. All right, buddy. But yeah, I definitely think that it is possible. And another thing is, like, we have, like, I don't know what region they said we were going to, but people were saying it was different than Snezhnaya. Like, they said at the end of the live stream that we were going to Kai or something, whatever that is. Don't know. But they said that we were going to do that. They said that we were going to go to Kai, and basically that is a region that is, like, southern of Snezhnaya. I don't know. The lore guys know better than me. People who listen to the lore a lot better know better than me. But I will say, like, that's going to be like 8.0. Like, it's 7 nations. We're going to have to end the 7 nations storyline, and then we're going to maybe go back around the map and, you know, go back through and have some new characters. But it is important to note, I'm actually going to go into game for this. When was our last Mondstadt character? Now, obviously, different circumstances. There is no Mondstadt character that needs a Mondstadt character, basically. But our last Mondstadt character, this was Sumeru. We got a Sumeru 4-star. We're about to get a Leeway 4-star. But Mondstadt? Charlotte, I'm pretty sure, is definitely Fontaine still, right? Kirara is Sumeru, I'm pretty sure. Or no, she's Inazuma. And then Mika was our last. He came out in 3.0. He came out in the 3.0 series updates. That's how long ago this guy was. That was our last Mondstadt character. Like, you know, that it can definitely take a while before we actually see some, like, results here. So I don't expect them to really, like, actually just go, oh, we're re-releasing, you know, Pyro Archon, whatever. We'll see. I don't know. I do wonder how they're going to maybe keep her in line, make her still strong. Once again, you only need one Natlan character, so it is likely that they could just release a character from any region to make her better, right? It is very possible. Like, I don't think her entire team has to be Natlan, and I think a lot of people are thinking that. I think a lot of people are like, oh man, we're going to have all Natlan characters as our entire team. Not really. I'm pretty sure that we're not going to have to do that. If you had to ask me, like, how maximum amount of Natlan characters that are going to be on Mavuika's team, right? Besides yourself, right? It's 2. I don't think that we're getting more than 2, right? Especially considering 60 recovered like 30% of her burst, right? There's no way that we have 2 Natlan characters don't recover 200 energy, including her, I'm pretty sure. Including her, she has to recover it herself too. So she's going to recover some, Night Soul or consume Night Soul energy. And then you have, Shieldin, who's going to, do her stuff, right? Like, it's very much so, like, entwined with, I don't think we're going to have that many Pyro Archon or Natlan characters, right? They could absolutely release any region character and just make her better for the Pyro Archon, right? I will see how that would work, but, that's for when she's not relevant in the meta at all. She looks like the least generalist Archon. Yeah, I mean, she is specified like, oh, we are a main DPS. We need Natlan characters. Like, she is not just a throw on the team type of deal. It's not like Raiden where you can throw her on the team, buff the elemental burst damage, right? It's not like that, right? She's going to be a DPS, very much so. She is also going to be a support, but how good is her support going to be? We'll see, because, gonna be honest, not a lot of characters wanted Shangling as their support. Then again, it's Shangling, so maybe some doors open up because it's Pyro Archon, but we didn't really need that. Now, I thought this was funny. Now, obviously, 2021, I feel like they maybe exaggerated a little bit on it, but 2020, you need both Archons, Zhongli and Venti, or your account suffers. I don't really think that was true, gonna be honest. I don't think 2020 was really like that. Venti was like Venti. By the time I got him, I barely used them in Abyss, right? I'm being real. It never really became an issue for me. 2021 would be Raiden, C2, C3 Raiden, plus signature to have comfy burst damage / uptime. Personally, you definitely didn't need C2, C3 Raiden. Considering C2, C3 Raiden still does good damage, by today's standards, you did not need C2, C3 by that time. 2021. You didn't need that. 2022, nah, C0 is fine. Just slap ton of EM on Sig, makes life easy. Nah, C0 is fine. Just slap fishing weapon on. Oh, Sig makes damage go burt. Basically 2023. Yeah, sure. And then we get to 2024, and it's like, you need Sig weapon and recent Natlan characters plus Seat Lolly to open your wallet. Kinda. We'll see. Plus Seat Lolly too. I imagine Seat Lolly. It's just going to be Seat Lolly, if I'm being honest. And if we look at that, Seat Lolly versus C2, C3 Raiden by the own guy's standards, plus the signature weapon, apparently. I don't know why signature weapon's included in the 2024, but, it's a little over-exaggerating. I think he's just trying to be funny, but, it is something that, people, if you go back and look at the past 2 years, this is true. This is just outright true. You can't argue with it. You can't argue the past 2 years, this is what it felt like. You could just have C0 Archons and they would just carry on every single team that released in the entire 2024, 2023. Oh, well, I guess 2024 would kind of be, what? No, what? No. Oh, wait. Oh, it's a little wrong. 2025 should be this because it's not coming out till 2025. But yeah, it's whatever. But yeah, then also 2020, it was very basic stuff. I feel like if you go back far enough, it's just too basic. It's not modern Genshin Impact, I'm going to be honest. It's very basic developmental cycle 2020. Yeah, I mean, honestly, you could probably put 2021 in there. And then 2022 with Sumeru, they really got into them they really got into the groove of what they're doing, the power level at what Genshin characters are going to be at, right? They really got sort of into it. Mavuika is an interesting situation, that's for sure. I have all the Natlan characters except for Chaska, so it isn't necessarily an issue for me. There isn't even a way to ignore that part of her kit, even with Konzu character like Fiorina, building Lenny for Vape, with Fiorina and stuff with his A4. This is going to be a major running issue until at the very least we get more Natlan 4-stars. Absolutely, I have to agree. I do think that the more 4-stars we get that are actually viable with the Pyro Archon, we're looking good. The thing is, right now, by the way, Auroron. I've seen a lot of people like, would Auroron work? Would Auroron work? And I gotta say, guys, I don't think so, if we're being honest. And the reason why I say I don't think so for Auroron is because I'm pretty sure the guy gains Night Soul from having Electro Charge reactions, and then in order to lose Night Soul, you have to gain Night Soul. So it's weird and kind of finicky. I personally can't think of any way that Auroron is going to end up being good on that team or useful for his Natlan support. I'd rather just run Kachina, if I'm being honest. And then here we have I'm going for C1, C2, Arlecchino. There are amazing constellations. I'll try and get them same for everything for Skirk. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are now just like, oh, well, I'm just going to save for Skirk then, or I'm just going to save for, you know, Arlecchino. I'm just going to spend more on Arlecchino because this character needs Natlan characters. It's possibly, you know, not what they want, right? They want a character who they can literally solo Abyss with. It's very possible that at C6, this character cannot solo Abyss, just like sort of how Chaska would be able to do it, right? Like Chaska, I'm pretty sure there's nothing in Chaska's kit that would make her completely able to solo Abyss, like in a good time, let's be real. For a C6 character, if you're struggling to solo Abyss, let's be real. You're not a new C6 character. You're like, you know. So, like, Arlecchino will be able to solo Abyss, whereas Pyro Archon, we don't know if she'll ever be able to do that, right? We don't know how... You know, because especially since she's definitely a character who wants reactions, right? I mean, Arlecchino Vape is better, but it's also like her second team. Like she does have. It's also like, you know, one of her other teams are literally Monopyro, where you don't vape and you just get a ton of buffs, right? The worst part about her is one, lack of team options because of the ridiculous limit to only Natlan characters. This is where I'm like, I don't know if this person thinks that it's gonna need 3 Natlan characters. Like I've been saying for the 500th time in this video, guys. I know. Can you guess what I'm gonna say? Can you guess? I think that we're only gonna need 1 other Natlan character, and then we're good. So you're still gonna have 2 open slots. So team options, I'm not really seeing an issue there, if I'm being honest. Sure, she really wants to support. But like it's a lot different, right? There's literally, if you remove this character, oh, she becomes unfunctional, let's put the character back on. If you have a character with like Bennett, if you remove him from the team, sure, the damage is going to go down, but you're still going to be usable, and you probably replace it with another character that can actually do it. But if you have the Pyro Archon, there's a chance that you literally cannot do it. The fact that she'll be walled after Natlan, once again, there can be Natlan characters. No new character will have Night Soul. Absolutely, that's false. There will be another character that with Night Soul, just literally any Natlan character. It's a Natlan specific thing. So if a Natlan character comes out, then they're gonna have Night Soul. Then they're possibly a ability to buff the Pyro Archon, right? Meaning unless they power creep the unpower creepable Furina, she is very power creepable. All they have to do is give 100% with no HP drain and some good off-field damage. That is very easily power creepable. She will have no new units to use. So she's effectively a bricked unit. Eventually, she's going to get power crept, and people are going to wonder why they even got her. Lack of teams also makes team setups so boring. No variety, no new things, nothing but the same combination of Bennett, Furina, plus any Natlan you want. Okay, so this person does understand that. I don't really get why. I guess, well, they're sort of being like, well, you're not going to get rid of Furina, right? But they could easily release another Bennett. I'm gonna be real. Like we are due for a 5-star version of Bennett. I'm gonna be honest. Like it is legitimately a thing. Like we are due for a 5-star version of Bennett. She's just fundamentally a boring unit. So this is a person who likes their team combinations, right? They like being able to run all the team combinations possible. But even still, I mean, you can have Sealali instead of Furina. You can have, you know, Sealali here. You can have, you know, Shieldon here. You can do whatever you want here. I feel like, honestly, it's kind of doing this disservice to the abilities, right? Like if you're so, like, stuck on being onto Furina plus Bennett, then I'm kind of wondering, like, why are you complaining about lack of teams when if this is the only thing you can do? If you really think this is the only thing that you can do, I feel like you don't use other teams. Like, I'm going to be honest. I really feel like you don't use other teams if this is what you think all you can do, right? Like, there are more options, right? You can run double Electro or something, right? Do whatever randomness you want. I'm sure that the Pyro Archon will be good enough to support this. I'm going to be honest. I feel like the Pyro Archon, while yes, probably is going to be better in Vape and Melt teams, but, you know, just because of the way that Sealali looks to be, I imagine that's not going to, like, be like, oh, you can only use Bennett and Furina. You can only use those two. It's not like Chaska, where she actually, like, loses so much and she isn't really able to support that massive amounts of DPS loss, right? Like, you know, Arlecchino, I run her in double Hydro, right? Sometimes, sure, I'll do it. It's not necessarily awful. It is awful sometimes, depending on the enemies that I'm facing. The new Abyss with high Pyro resistance enemies, yeah, that hurts. It hurts. It's awful. I hate it. I hate every single moment of it. my chat did it on stream once, or my chat forced me to do it on stream once, and I didn't like it. So here we are with another Mavuika. Does have free-to-play options. Kachina and Pyro main character. Once again, Pyro main character is just going to mess with her reactions. I don't think that's a good choice unless you are legitimately, like, ready to not do reactions. Like, maybe you're running an overload team. Power to you, but maybe you don't do that. You know, I don't really. I'm probably gonna be running her best of best team, possibly, probably Shieldon. All right, listen, I'll come clean. I'm running Shieldon and Seat Lolly all day, every day. I'm not waiting. I'm cooking. But even then, I do think she is still too restrictive. Mavuika is the least free-to-play friendly Archon so far, made for long-term players. Players who have teams that doesn't use Fiorina, Bennett, Seat Lolly, Shieldon. Now, I don't necessarily agree with that. Like, I don't know what that means. And then what he follows up as an example is C2 Nahida. Like, I feel like that doesn't do much. Like, hold on. I need to see Nahida's. Hold on. So I don't really get what C2 Nahida has to do with this. It's just talking about, like, burning. I feel like maybe he just did a bad example of this. Burning gives you crit hits for crit damage. Like, not really an option with Pyro Archon. I don't really think crits are going to save burning reaction, if I'm being honest. I think he just gave a bad example, if I'm being real. Okay, so I've been playing since 1.0, and I have C2 Nahida, so I won't be so affected by her restrictions in Abyss. It's interesting. Maybe he means C2 Nahida as in, like, she clears the chamber, like, so fast because of her, like, power that it just is going to make, like, Pyro Archon. Because I do that. I will run my, like, super giga Arlecchino team with, like, a weird Risley team that I made up. I'm going to be honest. I will do that. But I don't really know what C2 Nahida has to do with this. But the 1.0 player, I also don't really know how to... I don't know. Because you do... Like, you need fellow future Mavuika mates. Auroron Fischl, double Hydro Hutao. See, this is where it gets into, like, Hyper Bloom. Burngeon is what I think maybe he wants. No, there's that. I don't really get that. I'm be real. I don't really get what this guy's getting at. Because, like, some of these teams, it makes sense. Like, oh, you're gonna replace, you know, Raiden here with Pyro Archon. I don't, you know, whatever. And then double Hydro Hutao, double Hydro Pyro Archon. But I don't really know how that's gonna, like you need the Natlan character, right? Before you could have Fischl and Auroron, or Auroron at least, you know. Yeah, I don't know necessarily how well this person understands the restriction or necessarily is able to give good examples. Like, it's one of the two. I'm not to be mean, but, like, I feel like this isn't that great. Honestly, wouldn't pull Mavuika if she didn't have her exploration perks. She is a Claymore, so she will do great miner. Honestly, I don't mind. Like, I don't mind. I just use the expeditions to get me my box. At the time, I was annoyed with Fiorina and her need for a healer, but in this case, this is worse than that. You only need a Natlan character, but you need a character that gives you enough Night Soul for a second rotation. That one does, it's a sort of same thing, kind of, because Pyro Archon will generate Night Soul, and you'll have Night Soul generated from the other character. I imagine that'll be enough, because Pyro Archon's got to regenerate like half a burst, right, chat? I'll just say 100. We'll just say she regenerates 100. You get up to 160 with Kachina. Then you have normal attacks, right, that you're going to be doing with Pyro Archon. It'll be interesting. I don't want to imagine Mavuika in the future if we get to Snezhnaya and she gets stuck because lack of flexibility in her teams. You know, it will be a concern. But at the same time, they're going back to different regions already in Natlan. That is an issue. But at the same time, not an issue. It's like, let's look at Fontaine, okay? And let's look at how many characters from different regions did we see. Your Fontaine, your Fontaine, your Fontaine, your Sumeru. So we have one new region. Your Fontaine, your Inazuma. So we'll have two. She's from Fontaine, right? Like, we'll just consider her from Fontaine, right? She grew up there. So we have two, Inazuma, 3 Leeway, 4 Leeway, Fontaine. Navia is Fontaine, Fontaine, Sumeru, but that's the end. So there were a total of 4 characters from different regions. That's including 2 4 stars and 2 5 stars, basically. So I think that certainly is, like, I feel like a lot of people think that, oh, we're never going back to Natlan. They could easily, just as part of their, like, scheduled couple characters from another region, easily just implement a Pyro Archon buff. It's very possible. And once again, 2 characters on the team don't even need to be power crept. It's possible. I'm going to be honest. So I've been recording for an hour and 9 minutes now. I think I'm going to end the video here. If you have any more thoughts on, you know, what you saw in this video compared to the last video, give me as many comments as you want. You know, maybe don't do that many, though. If you really like my content, feel free to become a member. If you don't like my content that much, that's okay. You can subscribe and like the video, and that's all you need to do. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.